Welcome to Capitol Dateline Online. I'm with Jim Saunders of the News Service of Florida. Hi, Jim.
Hey.
We are going to talk today a little bit about guns and what's happening in the House. What happened last week?
Well, there was hours and hours of debate last week about guns in the House. The House passed two bills, very controversial bills, one of which would allow people with concealed weapons licenses to carry guns on college and university campuses. The other one would allow people with concealed weapons licenses to openly carry firearms in the state. The bills drew a lot of debate over 2 days, and they passed overwhelmingly in the Republican House, pretty much along party lines, with a few exceptions. And you know, basically, this issue has been out there for quite a while. Particularly the university and college campus issue has drawn a lot of attention. The university presidents, police forces, and so on have opposed it for more than a year. And but groups like the NRA and have been very strongly in support of this. And the House went and passed the bills both last week. A lot of the arguments in favor of it is people saying, you know, if you have guns, that public safety on college campuses, that one of the arguments is that young women on college campuses would be able to protect themselves against assaults if they had weapons, those sorts of things. But now it goes to the Senate, and it looks like these bills probably are dead in the Senate. Definitely the campus carry bill. The bill died in the Senate Judiciary Committee last year. It's stuck there again this year, and the chairman of that committee, Miguel Diaz de la Portilla out of Miami, has said that he basically said he's not going to take it up or doesn't plan to take it up. The Senate president started taking a hands-off policy about the whole thing, said, hey, leave it to the Judiciary Chairman, let him do what he wants to do. And so at this point, that bill looks like it's probably not going to make it out of the Senate. The open carry bill, which is, again, the bill that would allow people with concealed weapons licenses to carry, openly carry weapons, that looks like it might actually come up. It's possible it might come up in the Judiciary Committee, but there's also talk that they would make substantial changes to the bill, which would be unacceptable to the Second Amendment groups. So if that happens, it could, effectively kill the bill by making changes to it that would not be accepted in the House.
Make it too heavy to pass.
Exactly, and the House probably wouldn't go along with those changes. Marion Hammer, the very influential lobbyist for the NRA, has already made clear that some of these changes that are being talked about are unacceptable to her and her organization. So, it looks like both of these could, not get out of the Senate. One interesting thing that did happen early in the session related to gun issues, though, is that the Senate passed a bill that would change the burden of proof in stand your ground cases. Stand your ground is obviously this very controversial self-defense law. This Florida Supreme Court ruled last summer that the burden of proof in preliminary hearings is on people who are claiming self-defense.
Right.
And the Senate passed a bill that would flip that. It would place the burden on the prosecutors. This is something the NRA definitely wants. NRA and other supporters of Stand Your Ground are pushing this very hard. It had been stuck in the House, but it looks like it may, now that it's passed the Senate, may go over to the House and may pass out of there. So there may be one fairly significant bill that Second Amendment supporters want may get out this year. We're not exactly sure. We haven't seen it pop up in the House yet, or how it may pop up in the House. But that looks like it may happen. It's election year, and a lot of Republicans are out there, and having support of the NRA and Second Amendment supporters is very important to a lot of Republican candidates. And so I think it would be somewhere in the recesses of their mind, it might be helpful to pass something that would be acceptable and supported by the NRA.
It'd be interesting to see if this comes up again next year in a non-election year.
Well, I think that Marion Hammer has already said that, particularly this campus carry and probably the open carry too, but that she's ready and willing and ready to come again in 2017 to try to pass this stuff out. So, I think we'll be seeing it again in the future.
So we see a little bit of difference between the House and the Senate on guns. Where else are we seeing differences at this point in the session?
Well, we are right about the midpoint
Right.
of the 60-day session. So this is when things start to get serious. There's a lot of things moving through committees early in the session. A lot of things are still up in the air. I think the biggest issue in the second half of the session is obviously the budget. That's what they have to pass. The biggest issues within that are Governor Scott is proposing $1 billion in tax cuts and $250 million in economic development incentive money. And somehow the House and Senate have to decide where to meet on those issues. And the governor's pushing hard every single day. He's out campaigning on that issue. And so that's going to be a difficult thing to resolve. I think that to me is probably the major issue to watch in the second half of the session, particularly as the budget comes together. There are other issues like gambling. I think there's a huge question mark whether they're going to be able to get a gambling deal. But the wild card in that issue is that Governor Scott and the Seminole Tribe have negotiated a very lucrative, potentially lucrative deal for the state on a new gambling agreement that deals with the Seminole casinos. And the governor's now getting engaged on that issue. And I think he probably is looking at the potential money coming into the state over the next several years from it and thinking, that would help him a lot what he wants to do in other places. So there may be some pressure coming from the governor's office to try to get a deal done. Gambling is always a hard deal. There's so many conflicting factors, so much conflicting politics in it. But that's going to be something to watch here going forward as well.
Thanks, Jim. For more news about public affairs and government, go to the Advances section of our website and continue watching Capitol Dateline online daily for new postings.